Due to Christmas, at first, we see the city beautifully decorated, with all the houses shining and sparkling. The scene looks incredibly beautiful. But there was one house that was not decorated, where we see a father with 3 children. They seem to be upset with their father and look sad, as their father, instead of spending time with them on Christmas Day, was going to work. From their conversation, we find out that their mother had passed away, and now their father was also leaving. To look after the children, an old woman was called in who would take care of them. She tells the children a lovely story to cheer them up, just like I am about to tell you. This story is about a little boy who goes on an adventure. His journey was not only beautiful but also difficult. In the story, a boy named Nucleus lives with his father in a snowy area. One day, Nucleus goes with his father to cut firewood. While there, they see a bear approaching. Both Nucleus and his father get scared, and they run back home. From this, we learn that Nucleus lost his mother when he was very young. Also, their financial situation was bad, as they were quite poor. They didn't have much food, nor a way to earn money. Nucleus asks his father to tell him an exciting story. His father tells him a story about his mother. Many years ago, your mother crossed these snowy peaks where 2 sleeping monsters who were actually mountains stood. She passed between them and reached the other side, where a group of people lived, called the elves. The village was called Alphen, and though they were human, their appearance was different. Their ears were long and pointed. The people of Alphen were not ordinary, they had magical powers. They treated your mother very well and welcomed her warmly. When she returned, she had a lot of chocolates and toys, which she shared with the people around, spreading happiness everywhere. Meanwhile, Nucleus and his father feel the presence of an animal in the room. His father picks up an axe to kill it, but they find out it's a small mouse. Despite several attempts to kill it, the mouse escapes each time. Eventually, they let the mouse go at Nucleus's request, as he found the little mouse very cute and wanted to be friends with it. The next morning, Nucleus even names it. He tries to talk to the mouse and asks it to speak, but his father tells him, "Son, mice can't talk." Later, both father and son go to the king's palace, as everyone in the village had been invited. The king tells them, "I have lost both the hope and the purpose of living. Whoever gives me back my hope and purpose, I will make them very wealthy in return." The story that Nucleus's father had told him had now spread throughout the village, and people believed that the village of Alphen, where the elves lived, existed. They thought that by going there, they could bring back joy and a purpose for living for the king. In return, the king would make them wealthy, and they would become rich. Some villagers come to meet Nucleus's father and ask him to come along with them to find Alphen village. They believed they could get rich with the wealth promised by the king. Seeing their poverty, Nucleus's father agrees to go with them. However, when he tells Nucleus, the boy becomes sad. To comfort him, his father promises, "I promise, son, I will return in 7 to 8 days, and until I come back, my sister will take care of you." When his father's sister arrives at their house, she behaves nicely in front of Nucleus's father but starts showing her true colors once he leaves. She takes control of the entire house and treats Nucleus very poorly. She gives him some belongings and kicks him out of the house. Among the belongings was a doll that Nucleus's mother had lovingly made. The doll was precious to him as it was the last memory he had of his mother. After being thrown out, Nucleus sets up a tent for himself and spends the night outside with his mouse friend. Many days pass, but his father still does not return, and Nucleus starts losing hope, fearing something might have happened to him. They were already struggling with food. One day, his father's sister makes a delicious soup for Nucleus, which he drinks eagerly. Then, she reveals, "I made the soup from your doll." Nucleus becomes furious and starts yelling at her. However, he then notices his burning hat, which his mother had made. He quickly grabs the hat, extinguishes the fire, and discovers that there is a map carved into it. The map matches the story his father had told him, confirming that his mother's story was true. The village of Alphen really existed, and there was magic there. Determined, Nucleus decides to go to the village. The next day, he sets off on his journey with his mouse friend. Along the way, he teaches his mouse new words, even though he knows the mouse can't talk. After traveling for an entire day, they reach a village where Nucleus meets an old woman. She tells him to go back, saying that his efforts will be in vain and that the village of Alphen does not exist here. She advises him not to wander around searching for it. However, Nucleus ignores her advice and continues his journey. After traveling for several more days, he finds shelter in a place where he starts a fire by rubbing stones on the snow and prays that if magic is real, his mouse will speak. To his surprise, the mouse suddenly begins to speak. Nucleus is astonished and now fully believes in magic. His mouse friend speaks so much that Nucleus no longer feels lonely on his journey. As they are passing through a forest, a stag attacks them. To avoid the attack, Nucleus quickly climbs a tree and looks down, noticing that the stag has an arrow stuck in it. Understanding that the stag is in pain, he quickly climbs down and approaches the stag. Nucleus gently removes the arrow, and the stag breathes a sigh of relief. The stag looks at Nucleus lovingly, and Nucleus starts to leave. However, after traveling some distance, he notices that the stag is following him. Nucleus tells the stag not to follow him. He says, "I just want to know where my destination is and how long it will take to get there. I don't know if you will come with us, but you might die of hunger." However, the deer was hungry not for food but for love, and it still didn't leave its chase. Nucleus, after including it in his group, names it according to his own liking. The name was that of a place he really liked, so he continues the journey sitting on the deer. While sleeping, he reaches the monster, which were actually mountains. His mother had told him the same story, and his father had mentioned it too, so this meant that behind him was Alfheim village. But when they crossed the mountains and went to the other side, they saw nothing except snowy areas. Nucleus fainted because he hadn't eaten for several days, and it was also extremely cold. Just then, a little girl came with her grandfather. They were both elves. When the old man saw Nucleus unconscious, he came near and noticed that he was a human. He refused to help him, but the girl spoke up, saying that we should never leave anyone alone in such misery. No matter who they are, whether an elf or a human, if someone is in need, we should help them. Hearing this, the old man cast a spell on Nucleus, and he immediately regained consciousness. The old man had cast a spell of belief, meaning whatever Nucleus believed and thought with conviction would begin to manifest. Nucleus told them that he had come here to find his father and had been looking for Alfheim. After going ahead, he asked them where Alfheim was, and the girl replied that they were standing just outside Alfheim, but all they saw was snow. The old man told him to believe and think, and when Nucleus did so, he started to see the real Alfheim village. After entering, they led him through a secret path to a party where everyone was dancing and there were delicious foods, with most of the leftover food being sweet treats. It was actually Christmas, and the festive atmosphere made everyone very happy. The rat and his friend sneaked into the food and enjoyed themselves. But then, the queen of the elves arrived and ruined everything, as she had forbidden everyone from partying. The reason was that all the elves were very sad because humans had deceived them and had abducted one of their children. After this, Nucleus stood up, and the queen, seeing him, became enraged. She says, "What is this? Just now, a human child has been abducted from our village." The widow asks Nucleus, "What are you doing here? And why have you come here? Are you here to abduct another child?" Upon hearing this, Nucleus tells her, "No, your majesty, I have not come to abduct a child, but to find my father. He went out in search of Alfheim village. Don't worry, I promise I will bring back the elf child who was abducted by humans." However, the queen doesn't listen to him and, to punish him, locks him in a tower. In the tower, he meets a flying elf, who turns out to be an elf fairy with a great passion for fireworks. She has magic that allows her to shoot fireworks in the air, and the best part is that she always tells the truth. Nucleus then tells her, "My mother was also here. The people here treated her well and welcomed her warmly, but the queen has locked me in this tower. I need to find my father, so please help me get out of here." The fairy agrees to help, but just then, a large monster, who had been sleeping, wakes up due to their noise. When it sees Nucleus, it grabs him because it plans to eat him. Seeing this, Nucleus starts to panic, but the fairy elf saves him by shooting a flaming firecracker into the monster's mouth, causing it to explode like a balloon. The fairy then flies away with Nucleus. They both land on the roof of a house, where the queen's guards spot them. To escape, the fairy takes Nucleus away, but during their flight, Nucleus ends up entering a classroom. The teacher, seeing him, is quite surprised and starts calling the guards, but Nucleus explains, "You think badly of humans because they abducted an elf child, but I promise I will bring that child back." After hearing this, the teacher secretly helps Nucleus escape through a hidden path. Shortly afterward, his friend, the deer, arrives, and they both ride on the elf fairy and begin to leave Alfheim village. Meanwhile, the guards start chasing them, and the elf fairy distracts them by setting off fireworks. But when she sees that the exit is blocked, she stays behind, allowing Nucleus to escape. After traveling many miles, they still can't find any trace of the abducted child. But when Nucleus prays, asking Allah to show him the way, he sees a golden rope tied up. Following it, he reaches a cage where an elf child is locked up. Before he can free the child, a group of people arrives, among them Nucleus' father. He hugs his father and says, "We must release this elf child." But the others stop him, saying, "No, we can't release it because if the king sees it, he might be happy, and it could give us hope to live. In return, he might give us a lot of money." As a result, they tie Nucleus to a tree. His father is the one tying him up, and the rat tries to stop them, but everyone is surprised to see the rat talking. After everyone falls asleep, Nuklus' father comes to him and, along with the elf child, frees him from the cage. He tells him, I couldn't help you in front of them, so I tied you up. Before they could leave, everyone wakes up and attacks them with stones. At that moment, Nuklus and the elf child are sitting on the deer, with a cart tied behind them, carrying his father. The deer is unable to run fast due to the weight. Then Nuklus remembers that he has been cast with a spell of belief, and whatever he thinks with conviction will come true. So, he tells the deer to take flight, and while it does fly a little higher, it is unable to fly too high because of the extra weight and comes back down. Seeing this, his father, to save Nuklus, cuts the rope of the cart, and they fall into a ravine, which leads to their death. This saddens Nuklus deeply. However, Nuklus successfully reaches Alfheim with the abducted child. Since Nuklus had kept his promise, which was to bring back the child, the people of Alfheim are very happy. They give Nuklus and the child's parents many toys, which makes Nuklus very happy. Looking at the toys, Nuklus thinks to himself, why not spread happiness by distributing toys and things to all the children on Christmas, so he asks all the elves to make as many toys and food items as they can so he can distribute them to the children and spread joy. Hearing this, everyone starts making toys, chocolates, and other treats. They prepare a large amount of goods, which they pack into big bags and give to Nuklus. He then sets off with the bags. As he moves forward, the queen appears and uses her magic to stop him. She hangs him upside down because she doesn't like humans, as she thinks they are selfish. However, the queen notices a pendant hanging from Nuklus' neck, which belonged to his mother. Nuklus tells her that it belonged to his mother, and the queen, deeply moved, takes it off and becomes emotional. She says, many years ago, your mother came here, and we were very good friends. But when she left, she took many toys and chocolates with her. Before she left, she promised to come back and visit me, but it's been many years, and she never returned. Nuklus then tells her that his mother did plan to return, but she died of an illness. Hearing this, the queen and everyone else are shocked and saddened. The queen now believes that not all humans are the same, and while some may be bad, others are good. Therefore, she allows Nuklus to take the bag full of gifts. Nuklus, with the bag of gifts, rides on the deer and flies straight to the king's palace. The king looks quite sad, but Nuklus brings him joy and hope in the form of toys. After that, the king and Nuklus, riding on the deer, visit all the children's homes, distributing toys and chocolates. When the children wake up and see their new toys, they are overjoyed. The happiness of the children becomes a ray of hope for the king. After distributing all the toys, the king tells Nuklus, will you work for me? Every year, you must bring joy and hope to children through toys, and I will help you with this. The special day will be Christmas. Afterward, Nuklus goes to his father's sister's house, gives her chocolates, and flies away. Seeing him fly, she is very surprised, and now she believes in magic. The story ends here, and the three children who had been listening to the old woman's story are very happy. Later, when they come downstairs, they find their entire house decorated with Christmas lights, which fills them with immense joy. When the old woman goes outside and puts on her hat, the children notice her large, pointy ears. They realize that she too was an elf. Outside, the woman starts using her magic to set off fireworks, and they understand that she is the same elf who always told the truth. This story teaches many valuable lessons and will be liked by the children and everyone who listens to it.